So what happens is, with extreme ownership, with the dichotomy of leadership, we get these principles across people, and we did it in the most simple, straightforward possible way that we could, which is we tell a war story, we tell what the principle is, and then we show an example from the business world. And I'm saying we because I wrote these books with a buddy of mine, Leif Babin, that I was in the SEAL teams with. And so that's what we did, and it's pretty straightforward, but we have a consulting company too. So as we go around and talk to people, we start hearing questions, and then I have a podcast and people send me questions all the time. And these questions are really about, how do I take these principles? Because they get the principles, they can explain the principle, they can quote you the principle, but then they get faced with a problem and they don't understand how to actually apply the principle. So on my podcast, I was answering these questions all the time of, hey, what do I do when my boss wants all the credit? What do I do? And what do I do when I've got a young individual that has a lot of potential, but they're not really taking advantage of it? They're not motivated to make things happen. What do I do then? And question after question after question after question. And I realized, okay, I need to actually put these principles in a field manual that people can pragmatically take the lessons, take the principles, and apply them to what's happening in the world. And that's what I try to do in the new field manual. Well, actually what I did was I started off with what I considered leadership building blocks 1, 2, and 3 from my life, from the SEAL teams, when I got to the SEAL teams. And so then I actually started doing it when I was having conversations. And if you and I were in disagreement and you started getting emotional, instead of me getting emotional back at you, I would just take a step back and be like, oh, okay, he's really concerned about this. Why is he so concerned? What does he see that I don't see? And I started actually just detaching all the time. And that became a very powerful tool in leadership that I use to this day. When I say that relationships are the most important thing in getting things done, when I look back at my career in the Navy and the SEAL teams, just about every single thing that I ever did was through relationships. So the amount of times that I looked at one of my subordinates and said, no, you will do what I'm saying because I'm in charge, I don't think I actually honestly ever said that one single time. I think it was always, hey, this is what we got to get done. How do you think we should do it? Do you think this is smart? And it was all based on relationships, and up the chain of command too. There was never a time that one of my bosses said, hey, Jocko, shut up and you do what I told you to do. There was never a time that one of my bosses said that to me. There was, if I had a question, if I pushed back, they gave me legitimate answers. If they didn't have good answers, then they would modulate or change what it is that they were telling me to do. So this idea of having relationships up and down the chain of command, and there's a word that people bring up a lot, and I think they're pretty interchangeable, and it's relationships and trust, right? Trust is built on relationships. Relationships are built on trust. If you don't trust me, we don't really have a relationship. The more deeply you trust me, the better relationship we have. So how do I build trust with you? So if you're above me in the chain of command, well, this is one of those answers that's so obvious, it's crazy, but people actually fail to do this, which is, if you ask me to do something as my boss, I do it, and I do it well, and I do it consistently, and I go above and beyond what you ask. And if you want me to deliver this project by this date, I deliver it earlier, and I deliver it to the best of my ability, above and beyond what you expected. And you say, oh wow, when I ask Jocko to do something, he actually does it. And that's where it starts. It starts with that right there, with me performing, me offering advice, me taking what you asked me to do and doing it. That's the number one thing. If we flip those roles, and now I'm in charge of you, how do I build trust with you? Well, what I do is I give you a project. And instead of me giving you a project and then saying, hey, here's how I want you to do this, and here's how I want you to do the next part, instead I say, hey, here's a project, let me know how you want to do it. And then you go figure out how you want to get done. And I don't micromanage you, and I don't ask you a million questions about and tell you, no, don't do it like that, do it like this. I let you do it. And what does that tell you? That tells you that I trust you. I trust you. And when I trust you, you start to trust me. And by the way, if something goes wrong, instead of me jumping down your throat and hanging you out to dry and making you an example in front of everyone, I say, hey, let's figure out what went wrong. Did I not support you well enough? Did I not give you what you needed? And so you realize, oh, he's not gonna hang me out to dry. He's gonna give me the support. He's gonna try and teach me if something goes wrong instead of try and drop the hammer on me. And in order to do this properly, of course, let's say you just started working for me. The first thing I would hand you wouldn't be a massively strategic, important project and say, hey, here's a multi-million-dollar project, you take and run with it, I'll be over here. I trust you, you make it happen, because I don't know you. How can I trust you if I don't know you? So I'm gonna give you a smaller project. I'm gonna give you something little to start on, and then you do that well, boom. Now I'm gonna give you something bigger, and we continue to go in that direction until pretty much we get to a point where all I really have to tell you is, hey, this is the vision, this is what we're trying to make happen. Run with it. If you need to pass this barrier of whatever kind, let me know so I can let everyone else know. But it's on you. Run with it. Now you talked about manipulation. Manipulation obviously has a bad connotation. Leadership has a good connotation. What's the difference between the two? Because guess what? If I'm manipulating you, I'm trying to get you to do something. If I'm leading you, I'm trying to get you to do something. And many of the tools are very similar. So what's the difference between me leading you and me manipulating you? It's very easy for me to answer that question. If I'm manipulating you, I'm trying to get you to do something that's gonna benefit me. If I'm leading, I'm trying to get you to do something that's gonna benefit you, it's gonna benefit the team, and it's gonna benefit the mission. So for me, those are too easy. Those are too easy. It's real obvious. And by the way, if I'm a manipulator, I can get away with that for a little while, but eventually you're gonna look at me for what I am. You're gonna see that the maneuvers I'm making, the tools I'm using, I'm utilizing those tools for my own benefit. And as soon as you see that, you won't fully support me. You won't. The same goes for when I'm trying to make you do something good for yourself and for the team. You're gonna see that too. And you're gonna say, he actually cares about me. That's what he's doing this for. And when you know I care about you, you'll do anything for me. Oh, I want to give you hard criticism. How do I give you hard criticism? The first thing I have to do is make sure that you understand I care about you, which is not easy to do, and it's not always obvious. But if you know that more than anything else, what I want is for you to be successful, when I say, hey Tom, I'm looking at the outcome of the last project, and you were like 3 weeks past the time. I think there's some things that we could do to kind of make you a little bit more efficient in leading these things. If you know that my number one thing is that I care about you, you're gonna be all ears. To an extent. Because guess what percentage of the world is truly open for criticism? Oh, it's tiny! There's so few people that are truly open to criticism, because I'm gonna get the message to you, I'm just gonna deliver it in a way that you accept it more. That your mind is open to it. That's what I'm trying to do as a leader, as a friend, as someone that cares about you. Hey, look, I need to get this information to you. Now, this will escalate over time. And if I've tried, if I said, hey Tom, I think we could do this better, and you still fail. And I say, hey Tom, maybe you should try this, and you still fail. And then I say, hey Tom, I think this is the way you should go, and you still fail. And then I'm gonna get to a point where I'm saying, listen, Tom, this isn't working. The way you are doing this is not working. And I told you this, and I told you that, and I told you the other thing. And what I'm trying to say is that you need to change this part of your game. It is hurting you. So sometimes it gets there, where I've totally exhausted every conversation that I can think of. You know how often I escalated to that point in my career, my life? Like almost never. Almost never do you get someone that is so thick-headed that they're not gonna listen to you. And when they are, it's because they have a giant ego. It's because their ego, they can't see the fact that, oh, I'm making some real bad mistakes. And by the way, when you've delivered them that final message of like, hey, here's exactly what you're screwing up, what they say is, no, you just don't know what it's like in my shoes. And that's when you know you can't help them. Well, if you want to be a good leader, you have to understand human nature. And the places where human nature reveals itself most clearly are times of extreme sorrow, pain, suffering, and inhumanity. So if you want to see what happens to human beings, how they behave, see what they do in a concentration camp. If you want to understand humans better, understand what they do in the genocide in Rwanda, when 800,000 people were killed in 100 days, mostly with machetes. There's something going on there that we need to understand. If you want to understand leadership, you want to understand human nature, you need to look at the My Lai massacre, which happened in Vietnam, which was perpetrated by American soldiers, normal American soldiers. Normal American soldiers, you see the typical war movie, they got the typical Americans, they got the kid from the city, they got the kid from the country, they got the jock, they got the rock, that's what this was. That's what that company of soldiers was. And they went in there and committed heinous atrocities. And if we don't recognize what causes that, where that comes from, and that it's actually possible, then it's bound to happen again. And so it's going to be challenging. So that's what we do. That's what leaders are there for. So we as leaders, we have to constantly look at that and say, okay, I've got that going on. And I need to control it. So when people start getting emotional, when guys get killed, how do I get control over that? Yeah, I absolutely have to control my own emotions because it's your guys. And believe me, when you lose one of your guys, you want to kill everyone. And you know you can, and you know you shouldn't. So you have to detach from your emotions, you have to get control of them, and you have to make sure that you lead your men in the right direction so they don't do something that is not the right thing to do. Very similar to when we talked about trust and building trust and giving trust. If I want to gain the ability to influence you, well, then what I have to do is give you the ability to influence me. And when I say, hey, here's what we're trying to make happen. Here's what I want to do. And you say, well, I think we should do it like this. You know what I should say? Okay, well, let's take a look at that. The more I allow you to influence me, the more open your mind gets for me to influence you. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna allow you to influence me, and the more I allow that to happen, the more influence I'm gonna have. Respect, same thing. If I treat you like you're a plebe, like you don't matter, you're not gonna respect me at all. But if I treat you with respect and respect you, when you try and talk to me, I listen and I respect what you're saying and I try and understand it fully, then your respect for me is gonna go up as well. So when you want to earn respect, give respect. When you want to earn influence, give influence. When you want to earn trust, give trust. All those three are related. The problem is you need to be in a position where you can talk your way out of it. Because if you're around a person that's a bully, they don't understand talking, they don't care what you say to them. They're gonna physically bully you. So if you don't have the physical knowledge, presence, ability to stand up and stop that, then you're gonna get abused. You're gonna get beat up. That's the horrible reality. I'm sorry that it is that way. And as you know in the book, he's actually able to, once he has the confidence and the true ability, he stands up to the bully, and the bully is actually a weakling. He doesn't want to fight, but he'd never been challenged before, which is a very realistic bully. Just help people learn the lessons that I've learned so they don't have to learn for themselves. There's a lot of mistakes that I've made. I've been blessed and lucky, and I explain this in Leadership Strategy and Tactics, that I've been very lucky to have been through what I've been through, to been around the people that I've been around, to learn the things that I've been blessed and lucky enough to be able to learn, and I don't want to hoard them. I want to give them away. So that's why I'm doing what I'm doing and trying to help people as much as I can.